Good afternoon, a very warm welcome to Grenchen, to the Tissot Velodrome for a very important day in women's cycling, as Joss Loudon attempts to break the UCI hour record timed by Tissot. Well, this is the scene in the middle of the track at the moment as Joss Loudon warms up underneath the track right now to get herself into that zone, ready to attempt this all-important record, the blue-ribboned record of world cycling, currently held by the Italian rider Vittoria Busi, her distance 48.007 kilometers an hour. So 1 hour of racing. Dan Bigham there in the centre of the track, getting the bike of Joss Loudon ready, getting in the starting gate, and in around about 9 minutes time she will be on the track and riding for 60 seconds as she chases the record of Vittoria Busi. Well, let's find out a little bit more about Joss Loudon and find out about her approach to this record.
I think the hour is such a unique niche event that it's not just about physically preparing for it. I mean, obviously I need to get in the best shape I can, and there's obviously the technical side of it, which is riding on the track. But I think that, yeah, mentally you've got to be, well, I've got to be really up for it and really want to do it. There's a lot of people like, oh, it sounds absolutely horrific. Like, why would you want to do that? It's an hour of hell, it's an hour of pain. And I mean, some of it is certainly horrifically painful, but some of it isn't. And the training and the preparation for it is something that I enjoy. But there's this kind of, well, I find something really satisfying about pushing yourself and being able to actually get the absolute most out of an effort. Like, people always talk about how, like, what's the most you can ever do for an hour? And nobody really ever actually does what they can apparently do for an hour. But there's nowhere to hide when you're on the track and you're doing it like that. And it's like, I quite like being able to actually see what I can push myself to. And then in terms of like this thing about, oh, you can only do it once, like it's hell and you only do it once. And I just don't buy into that at all. I think the more familiar with something you are, the more comforting it is, and the more you can sort of find these little, like, I don't know, it's almost like these feedback loops as you ride through the hour, and then it's, you know that you've been there before, and then you know you can do it again, and it's their little comforts that I think are quite important. Best in the world, you're always going to be comparing yourself to those who are at the absolute top. But then there does come a point, and I suppose it's like with this hour, that you're looking around thinking, huh, am I going to be at that top? Am I that person that's going to have that world record? And you're like, no, that's not what it means. I'm just somebody that's decided to have a go at doing it. Maybe. But maybe more people will then have a go at doing it. And then that's what I'd like to happen, really, because the men's is such a big thing, and the women's doesn't have so many like women have a go at it. And I think that if this can sort of fire up some competition, that would be really cool.
A chance then to find out a little bit about Joss Loudon, who was a runner, turned her attention to cycling, 33 years of age, rides for the Drops Le Col team, and currently, over the last few years, has started to really emerge on the world scene. She rode the World Championships for Great Britain last week. She rode the individual time trial, she rode the team time trial, and she rode the road race in support of Lizzie Deignan as well. And interestingly, Joss Loudon, as we look at the bike that she's going to ride this afternoon for this hour record, Joss Loudon's only ever ridden one track event, which was the National Championships in about a year ago. So apart from that, Joss Loudon is not known as a track specialist. She's not known for her exploits on these wooden boards at all. So to find out just how far she can travel in an hour is going to be absolutely fascinating this afternoon, and we're very much looking forward to how Joss does. The preparation that's gone into today's record has been incredible, and throughout the next hour we're going to give you both the insight as to Joss actually riding for this hour, but also give you the insight as to some of the background that's gone into it with some of the personalities who have actually been involved. Well, she's making her way out onto the track now. She's going to get her last few moments of warm-up, just focus, get herself ready, and then get up here onto the boards. Well, alongside me for this hour record to bring you some of the insight as to riding on this track, what she's going to face, how it's going to go. A very warm welcome this afternoon to winner of a stage this year of the Giro d'Italia, but he's also ridden on this track many, many laps. Good afternoon to Mauro Schmidt. Mauro, this is a really special moment for women's cycling, but it's an incredible moment for Joss Loudon. You've ridden on this track. You've ridden thousands of laps in preparation for Olympic Games and everything else. Tell us a little bit about the way that this track rides and why it's so chosen by our record specialists, because Rowan Dennis beat the male record here. Jens Vogt beat the hour record here as well. What makes this track unique and what is it like to ride?
Yeah, hello everybody. I think it's definitely a really fast track here. You can see it by all the guys who tried to beat the hour record or did it in the past on this track. In my opinion, it's really easy to ride the line on this track, and that's a crucial point in the hour record, because if you cannot stick to the black line in the corner, you lose a lot of meters and seconds over the hour, and yeah, that's a really important thing.
Let's take a look then at the previous hour. We'll come back to the track in a second. So Vittoria Bussi's record, 48.007 kilometers an hour. Other riders who've broken this hour record before, Evie Stevens of the United States of America, and you can see there just how tight the margins can be. Vittoria Bussi just beating it with last sprint over the last few laps of racing. Bridie O'Donnell beat it in 2016. There was a real rush of riders trying to beat the hour record after the rules were changed in 2014. And Dame Sarah Storey was the first rider who attempted it. Didn't ultimately break it, but she did beat the British record on that occasion. But after that, we had Molly Schaefer-Van Houweling, we had Bridie O'Donnell, then Evie Stevens, and Vittoria Bussi had a couple of attempts before she finally beat it. Joss is now heading out onto the track. Dan Bigham wishing her all the luck, her partner who is so important in this record. Dan is renowned, Mauro, for his ability to make riders go fast. How much of an influence and how important do you think Dan Bigham will have been in this preparation?
Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely a big part of the hour record. Being aero is probably the most important thing, besides the power you can hold for 1 hour. And he is always up to it to save the last watt and be on the limit or on the edge of the rules. So yeah, we will see.
She's making her way out onto the track. We're going to find out a little bit during the hour record about the equipment that she is actually using. She's actually going to tell us about that in a little feature during the hour. Clipping herself now into the pedals for the final preparation. As she gets onto the bike now, when you've looked at this bike, and I know you took a look at it just before the start, it looks super fast, doesn't it?
It definitely looks super fast. I think they optimized it in every way possible. And we will see how fast it is.
She's settling in now. Joss Loudon. Herself, the black line, and 1 hour. The last moments of preparation, there are coming down now to 10 seconds until this hour record attempt gets underway. Out of the starting gate for Joss Loudon, she now has 60 minutes to make history as she starts the first acceleration out onto the track. Mauro, as far as getting started is concerned, how critical is the first 10 minutes or so of this record?
It's definitely important that you don't go too fast into it, because I'm quite sure she will feel super strong in the first part of this hour record attempt, and it will be hard for her to pace herself and not go too fast. But if you go over your limit, you will regret it, and you will lose a lot of time in the last part of this hour.
So in the first little bit of this ride then, so basically in terms of pacing, she's got to almost hold herself back in the first 20 minutes or so.
Yeah, definitely. I think she talked about doing the first 20 minutes quite conservative, so she wants to be riding exactly on the hour record pace or slightly under, and then she wants to continue increasing the pace till the end.
When we look at the record of Vittoria Bussi, she rode 48.007 kilometers. If you equate that for everybody watching, and we'll just explain to you how this readout goes on the screen. Up at the top of the screen, you've got the laps that Joss has covered. You've got the distance covered so far. Down on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see green, which means that on average, Joss Loudon is ahead of Vittoria Bussi's record. And you'll see the average speed, of course, in kilometers an hour. So when we work it out and we equate 48.00 kilometers to the actual record, it's around 192 laps, isn't it, that Joss has now got to cover?
Yeah, she needs to do 192 laps and I think 8 meters or something. And this means that she needs to ride a lap time of 18.7 on average for the whole hour.
So every single lap needs to be 18.7 seconds, and that will come up on the left-hand side of the screen all the time. So that'll give us that kind of flavour of how she is riding to the kind of schedule that they've set. And as you can see, 18.783. She's kind of slowed down over the last couple of laps. She's 0.067 ahead of the record, so she's right on the record at 2,000 meters. When we get to the different splits, 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers and upwards, we'll be able to get a real indication, won't we, as to how she is doing against Vittoria Bussi's record, because we've got those exact splits that Vittoria rode.
Yeah, we will see that, but I think only after about 40 minutes, because before it's really hard to guess if she can increase the pace or if she went a bit over the limit, and you can lose a lot of time or a lot of speed also in the last 10 or 20 minutes.
Talk to me then about the pressure in this velodrome at the moment. And when we talk about pressure, we don't talk about pressure on yourself, but at the moment, the figures in this velodrome, looking at Dan Bigham's calculations, they've pretty much got this perfect, haven't they, for an hour record attempt?
Yeah, we currently have a pressure of about 976 millibars, so that's basically quite low. It's the track is also not on sea level. It's on about 500 meters over sea level, so it's normally about in this range. And Dan Bigham also calculated it on pretty much these figures, so it looks good.
So he really couldn't have, when he did all his calculations for the hour record, he couldn't have got it as close as anyone would have expected, because his calculations are right on the pressure at this time of the day, on this particular day as we sit here watching her just cover those first few laps. 14 laps completed now for Joss Loudon, 3.5 kilometres into the legs. She's riding at just 0.139 inside the record at the moment. And as you mentioned, as you watch her right now, she looks like she is holding back. Are you able to see that in her stature on the track?
It's hard to see if she's holding back, but she looks quite comfortable at the moment, and she also rides quite a good line in the corner. So this is really a hard thing when you're not so used to the track. So yeah, it looks really good.
She looks good so far then. She's 0.1 inside the record as she makes her way down the back straight on the 18th lap of this hour record attempt. She's coming up to the 4.5 kilometre point of this hour record. Joss Loudon, as she does every single lap on this track at the moment. She looks very, very controlled. I know talking to her before the record, she was saying she was a little bit concerned about holding the black line and what line to take on this particular track. Now, we've talked a little bit so far about how this record will evolve, what the pacing strategy is going to be, and about what sort of lap times Joss Loudon needs to do to break Vittoria Bussi's record. Let's hear now from Dan Bigham about the thoughts on that.
The strategy is basically to just beat the record. That's all we need to do. We're not going out for anything outrageous. We just want to get the record. So to that extent, we're going out quite conservative, basically on record pace, with the intention of just gradually ramping it throughout. She's obviously in a good place, and we know exactly what we need from an atmospherics perspective. So having the right temperature, obviously good pressure here with being slightly at altitude at 400 meters, and everything else is in place with humidity and the physiology. So basically out at record pace, progress throughout, and hopefully have a strong finish. So for lap 1 is a 26.5, that's the target, and then we'll settle in quite quickly on around 18.7s, which is bang on 48 kilometers an hour, so on record pace, and then hopefully progress that throughout to sort of into the mid and even low 18-second laps when you can really start putting more distance onto the record. But yeah, for the first 10 minutes or so, stick on the record pace and then get comfortable. Multiple aspects, I think, make Joss a good candidate. I think she's very good at the steady state, long duration efforts, loves living on the turbo, on the Le Monde, on the kicker, just nice steady state. But also she's very good in the heat, so heat is a good thing for record attempts. It allows you to ride further for the same amount of effort, but physiologically she's well suited to the heat as well. So they're probably the two attributes, and the final one is, yeah, she loves the pain, loves digging in at the back end, and loves doing those hard efforts, and she's done multiple practice hours, and I don't think many people approach it with the same mentality that she has of like, let's go through it and let's really know what that feels like, so she's confident when today comes.
8 minutes.
Dan Bigham, the aero coach, the aero engineer, the mind behind this hour record, just decided to go for the hour record in a conversation between her and Dan, and also John Archibald, who was preparing to try and have an assault on the hour record as well. And they turned around and said to Joss, you could do that as well. And she, over time, started to believe that the hour record was actually possible to beat. When we look at Mauro, the situation with Joss in terms of her pacing strategy, we just heard there from Dan Bigham, and he is looking to just try and break the record. Our kind of insight is that she's going to try and ride to around about 48.5 kilometres. Talk us through what sort of laps she needs to do in order to do that, and then what I'd like to then cover is a little bit about her aerodynamics, because she slices through the air incredibly well. So first of all then, if we're going to ride 48.5 kilometres, what sort of lap times are we looking at? And then will she ride an even pace all the way through, or will she ramp it up as this record goes on?
Yeah, her goal is definitely to ramp it up. Oh, she just hit the curb there, but she stayed on the bike. Her goal is to, as Dan said, ride 18.7 for the first part, and then ramp it up to low 18 laps. So that's definitely quite fast, but we will see how she can pace it, because it's not easy, and we see already she goes down to 18.4, so this is quite fast, and 0.3 seconds under the world record pace at the moment.
Joss, then, when we look at the position on the bike that she's got, and Dan says she likes the heat, she likes the pain of it as the record goes on. But one thing we've really noticed about Joss Loudon as a rider is just how aero she is. We're going to get a little bit technical now. So people talk about something called CDA. Can you explain CDA to me? And then when we look at Joss, why is she so good aerodynamically?
So basically, when you look from the front on Joss' position, you see that her shoulders are extremely narrow, and her helmet is nearly wider than her shoulders. So you can already see that she is definitely quite aerodynamic. And we also got some insights about her CDA. So it's about 0.17, and that's extremely low. So I don't know a lot of figures from women, but for a man I think it's nearly impossible to reach a CDA of that. And it basically just means, as lower your CDA is, as less watts you need to produce for this hour. And it's definitely a key point in beating an hour record, because if you're not aero, you have basically no chance.
Okay, so she's incredibly aerodynamic, and we can see that with that position. When we both looked at the position that she's got with the aero bars on the front, and her elbows are pretty much tucked together, aren't they? She has got such a narrow shoulder position, such a narrow hand position, and that's why that CDA is so low, which means she can slice through the air. Does that mean then that for her traveling at, say, 50 kilometers an hour, she needs to put out less power than an equivalent other rider?
Yeah, it basically just means that she needs to produce less watts for the same speed than a lot of other riders. So we have a little bit of insight about what she needs to do for this hour. So Dan calculated she needs to do about 255 watts to beat the current hour record. And as he said before, they are really comfortable or confident that they can make it. And she already did more power in the training. And Dan said that he could increase the position even a little bit more before this hour record attempt. So I think they are quite confident.
Just to give you an update then, at the 10 kilometre point, when Vittoria Bussi raced through 10 kilometres, she hit the time 12 minutes 36.1. Joss Loudon's just gone through the 10 kilometre point in 12 minutes 34.327. So she is just ahead now of the record of Vittoria Bussi at the 10 kilometre point. Very important. So that gives us an indication at that sort of situation, how she is doing against this record. The average speed of Vittoria Bussi at the 10 kilometre point, 47.62 kilometres an hour. That means that Joss now is on a record schedule. She's now 3 seconds ahead of the current record at this particular point. Now, the speeds that you're seeing on the screen and the comparisons are obviously average comparisons. When we saw Vittoria Bussi ride, she actually went through a pretty bad patch, didn't she, Mauro? There was a point when the times of Vittoria Bussi started to escalate and she really started to suffer, and then she brought it back over the closing kilometres, didn't she?
Yeah, when you watch the lap time of Victoria, you see that she also targeted 18.7 to 18.8 for the first part. And then for some laps, she increased the pace to 18.4 already quite early, after about 35 minutes. And then she had to move the pace up a little bit, and then she tried again to increase the pace about 10 minutes before the finish, but she couldn't really hold the pace for a long time. And then she went back to about 18.8 for the last few laps, and only in the last lap she then increased the pace to 18.2 to then eventually beat the record.
But she only beat the record by 27 metres in that particular occasion, but she'd already tried to ride the day before and she only rode 40 minutes. So it just shows you how slender the margins can be in the hour record. Joss Loudon then 15 minutes into this ride. She's done 49 laps, coming up to the 50 lap point. So that must be a nice motivator as far as she is concerned. Our record riders chunk the ride into blocks, don't they? Rather than in their head thinking it's an hour, they break it down into particular pieces, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So when we go back over the last few records, Evelyn Stevens rode 47.9, Bridie O'Donnell 46.882, and Molly Schaefer Van Houweling 46.273. Most of those rides were at some sort of altitude, as we watch now Joss Loudon starting to increase the tempo a little bit more. She's at 4 seconds faster than the current record. We're looking at Joss Loudon's bike. We've been looking at the sort of equipment she's riding. We've talked about how aerodynamic she is this afternoon, and that's the all-important CDA figure. But we thought we'd ask Joss what kit she was actually riding. So in her own words, you understand what she's chosen to try and break this hour record.
Okay, so we're standing here inside Tissot Velodrome in Grenchen, and this is what I'll be riding for the hour attempt on Thursday. So this is the Argon 18 Electron Pro frame. Up here we've got the Wattshop Anemoy Labs extensions, which have been sort of customised especially for me. So we've designed this mount here, which is particularly narrow because I've got really small arms and pretty small shoulders. So it keeps my armrests close together. And then it's a Wattshop Pentaxia base bar. And then coming down to the wheels, these are Fast Forward Disc TSLs. And then the tyres are Vittoria Pista Speeds. And then the chain, which will obviously be on the bike, and that's the Azumi Kai chain. And Wattshop, we've done lots of testing on hundreds and hundreds of chains, and this one just tested fastest. So that's what I'm going to be riding. And then in terms of clothing, I'll be wearing the Le Col McLaren skin suit. We did quite a lot of testing together with Le Col in the wind tunnel, and it was, tested fastest.
Go, Charles, go, looking good, looking good.
This is the UCI hour record timed by Tissot as Joss Loudon attempts here to break to this hour record held by Vittoria Bussi of Italy. Her distance 48.007 kilometres. Loudon now coming up towards the all-important 15 kilometres. That will give us a good indication of how Joss is doing in comparison to this hour record. Bussi went through in 18 minutes 50.2. So let's just get a comparison now at the 15 kilometre point as to how Joss Loudon is doing. She goes through in 18:45.815, 5 seconds faster than the current record of Vittoria Bussi, and still looking very much in control. Mauro, I want to come back to the kit. And Joss talked us through then the kit that she's chosen to ride on the bike and also the skin suit. Talking about the skin suit first, Le Col are her sponsors. They've enabled this attempt. They've invested in her to make sure that she has the very best support to break this hour record. They have ensured that she's funded for the all-important blood passport. They've enabled the live streams and everything else to happen. Le Col then, she's got this McLaren Lecole skin suit on. You know, as a Olympian and a time trialist and team pursuiter, when we look at this skin suit, how important is it that the skin suit is the very best that she could possibly choose to break the record? What difference does it really make?
So the skin suit is quite something individual. So for some guys it can be a really fast suit, and for other guys it can be slower. And it also is important on which speed you're doing. So it's not sure that your suit is fast with 60k per hour, but it can be super fast with 40k. So it needs to be tested exactly on the hour record pace, or on about 48 kilometers per hour, and it also needs to be perfectly fitted for her and for her body.
But the skin suit itself will have all sorts of different materials on it to try and help her slip through the air as much as possible. They're not just a smooth fabric, are they?
No, but there are quite a lot of rules actually about clothing, and there are rules about how thick it can be, and that's really an important thing, to be as close to the limit. But yeah, the fabrics make a big difference. You see on the back it's a different one than on the arms. So one of the most important things is the area of the arms and the shoulders, because this is the part that hits the wind first, and then the back and the front of the suit is a little bit less important because it's quite covered, and there is less airflow around this area.
She's chosen a gear which is huge, a 64-15 gear. So the front chainring looks like a dinner plate. It's absolutely massive. But you were explaining to me earlier that the cadence, the pedal rate for Joss is really critical here. Why is that?
So when you compare it to other track events like individual pursuit or team pursuit, her cadence is completely different. So in the team pursuit we go for like about 120 RPM and slightly lower in the individual pursuit, but she chooses a cadence from only 91 RPM about in average. So that's super, it's a super big gear. But from the things I heard from other guys that did the hour record in the past, a lot of guys said they choose a gear that is too small. And in the end it gets really hard when you have to ride always a cadence from above or over 100, and that's mainly the reason why she tries to use such a big gear today.
Also, I think in terms of cadence, the higher your cadence, the higher your heart rate. And over an hour she's trying to control all sorts of controllables, isn't she?
Yeah, it's definitely like this. So if you choose a gear that is slightly too small, your heart rate will also be higher, and it's more difficult to ride a smooth line and hold the body in a good position. So that's the reason why she chooses such a big gear today.
So she keeps the cadence low, as we can see here. The pedal revs around about 90 revs a minute. She keeps the gear nice and high, which means she's pushing high watts. She's really, really aerodynamic. So that Lecole skin suit helps her slice through the air really fast without the loss of too much effort. So she's absolutely perfectly positioned here to put herself in with a shout of breaking this hour record.
Yeah, up to now it looks really good for her. She's already up 7.5 seconds, and like she said, she wants to start slow, so let's see how she can increase the pace, or if she went a little bit too fast at the beginning.
Let's see how she does do. She's 7.8 seconds ahead at this particular point. Let's keep an eye then as we look at the record of Vittoria Bussey and Joss Loudon of Great Britain trying to break it. We're going to come up to the 20-kilometre point. That'll give us a really strong indication of how Joss Loudon is doing in comparison to this record now. 20 kilometres, 25 minutes, 4.3, which was an average speed of 47.86 kilometres an hour for Vittoria Bussey. And we have just hit it in 24 minutes, 56.691, and that is a very strong position then for Joss Loudon. So she has gone under the 25-minute mark here for the record at 20 kilometres. We're at that point then where the record will really start to bite, won't it? Because we are 25 minutes into this attempt. Riders who go into the hour record say that they get in that first 20 minutes, it feels like you're holding things back, and then things start to really escalate from here, don't they?
I never done an hour record, but I'm quite sure that the middle part is definitely the hardest, because in the last 5 to 10 minutes you can see the end, and it's more easy to push through. But in this middle sector, from like 30 to 45 minutes, I think it will be really, really difficult, because you have to suffer a lot, and it's not only the legs, it's the whole body that starts to hurt, because you always have this force into every corner that pushes you down on the track, and this makes it much harder than on the, for example, on a TT bike. So your shoulders will be quite full of lactic acid, and also the arms and every part of the body.
So that really starts to bite then on you. You've got pain in the shoulders, pain in the back, pain in the legs, and this is the point where that mental toughness of an athlete really does now start to come into play.
Yeah, without being mentally super strong, it's nearly impossible to break an hour record. It's nearly as important as the power you can produce, because it's really something in the head. In the second half. So.
Joss Loudon then continues around the track. The average speed of this ride right now, 48.142 kilometres an hour. And she's starting to look like she's even picking up the tempo a little bit more. We'll start to look at the lap times. 18.371, and she is starting to accelerate now. Well, here in the velodrome is a man who is well known to fans of track cycling. He is an Olympian. He's Olympic silver medalist on the track, and so well known in the 6 days. Let's hear now from a very well known Swiss rider here in the track, Franco Maravulli.
All right, you guys, here we are with Franco Maravulli, former pro track rider, 3-time Olympian in 2000, 2004, 2008, and silver medalist. And here we are for the hour record for Joss. She is looking like she's on fire. What's your professional take on how she's looking out there, Franco?
Well, it's very difficult to say. This decision will be the last 15-10 minutes, but she looks extremely good. Her hand doesn't move at all, and she's 10 seconds ahead, halfway, so we'll look really positive in the second half.
And she's holding that 18.7 split, and even got down to 18.3 at some laps previously.
Yeah, Dan is braking here sometimes a little bit, really to focus on these last 10 minutes, and I'm sure she's going to beat it.
I think she's on her way. 92 laps in, she's looking phenomenal. Thank you so much, Franco.
23 kilometres covered, 92 laps she has done, just clicks over 93. Only 100 laps to go to beat the hour record for Joss Loudon. 10.5 seconds now above, inside the time of Vittoria Bussi at that particular point. We're coming up to the half an hour point now, Mauro, and we're going to see what she's at that half an hour point, and that will really start to tell us how she is going to go by the time we get to the hour. Franco Marvuli then was just giving us his indication. He thinks she will beat the hour record, but there's still half an hour of racing to go. Let's just click through here. She just went through 23.750 in that time, and now she's pacing around the track again, coming up to that 30-minute mark. Her average speed at the half an hour point is 48.184 kilometers an hour. So Mauro, she's ahead of Vittoria Bussi at the midway point of this ride. Very impressive so far. What's your assessment then of how she's ridden this first half an hour of racing?
I think she did it quite perfectly until now. So you see sometimes she went a little bit too quick. So a few laps were like 18.3, but then she eased off a little bit and went back onto her target. And I think now she's quite spot on 18.5, so it looks really good.
Coming up then to the 25-kilometre point for Joss Loudon of Great Britain, riding the women's hour record, a very important moment in women's cycling. We're just going to tick our way through that 25-kilometre point, then we'll do a comparison to Vittoria Bussi at the 25-kilometre point. Bussi went through in 31 minutes 18.5, and Loudon is coming up to that point now in 31.07.06. She's now starting to escalate, 11.879 seconds faster at the 25-kilometre point for Joss Loudon. So 92 laps now, and she will beat the world hour record of Vittoria Bussi. How's that looking, Mauro, on her schedule that she was looking at? So 25 kilometres, 31.07.061.
So on her schedule, it was planned that she does the 25k mark with 30 minutes and 59 seconds. So she's slightly under the pacing strategy. So it looks definitely good.
Does look very, very good so far. From this point then, the idea was that she would ride what's known as a negative split. So she'll ride steady at the beginning and she'll start to ramp it up. Over the closing phase of this ride, what will she do in terms of split second laps? What was her target?
So she said she wants to go in the region of 18 seconds. So, but that is quite fast. It's 0.7 seconds faster than the average of the current hour record. So she just needs to look that she doesn't accelerate too early, because otherwise it will be really difficult to make it to the line.
Joss Loudon, 48.23 kilometres an hour. It is a mesmerising record, this, because it is one rider on the track riding the black line as close to it as she possibly can, and it's all about how much effort she puts out, how she paces, how much pain is in those legs, and whether she can escalate the pace over the closing phase of this particular race. When I remember seeing Dame Sarah Storey ride the hour record, she finished completely exhausted at the end of it. We've seen riders attempt it and suddenly they crack and things go pretty horribly wrong. We're not seeing a rider like that at the moment. She looks very, very comfortable. She looks very, very controlled. There have been some huge names who have ridden the hour record. The rules changed in 2014, and before that, the previous record was held by the legendary Leontien van Moorsel, who rode 46.065 kilometres on the 1st of October 2003. This record was changed in 2014, and since then there has been some interest in it, but not incredible interest in it. And I know one of Joss's aims in riding this record is she wants more women to actually go out there and try and ride the world hour record. Because when you look at the likes of the Dutch strength like Ellen van Dijk and Annemiek van Vleuten, so far they haven't come out and ridden the hour record. Why do you think, Mauro, that more women don't ride the hour record so far? Is it cost because the male riders are paid more? Or has it just not become the record that ultimately they want it to be yet?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's really can be that is the cost, because it's definitely not cheap to organize an event like this. She luckily has a good sponsor on her side who paid the whole thing, but it's also a lot of preparation that needs to go in to an hour record attempt. So it's not just if you're a good time trialist, you can easily beat this hour record. And she definitely put everything into it, and she goes for it today. And we are really excited to see what she can do in the second half here of her hour record attempt.
When you get towards the end of this hour record, and the UCI hour record time by Tissot is all set out, there's so much that goes into it, as you've mentioned. The bike, they've had to photograph every component on the bike. It's got to be checked by the UCI. When she came into the track bike was weighed, it was put in the jig, and everything. So it's got to be perfectly executed. You need a big team to actually make it happen. But for an athlete, it is the ultimate record, isn't it? Because it's just you. It's no one else. It's not a team. It's just you and your ability as a human being to go forward and to try and be the best in the world. It's got to be the most perfect record there is.
It is something really special in the history of cycling. You also saw in the past in the male category how many big names try to go for this hour record in the past. And yeah, since this rule change, it went quite big, and a lot of really good time trialists and cyclists try to beat this record. And now it's quite interesting that it also comes up with the women. So let's see in the next few years how many girls will try to beat that record.
Let's hope that many more decide to do it. We're coming up to the all-important 30 kilometres point, so we'll get an idea. The time of Bussy, the target of Joss was about 37 minutes and 9 seconds. As we go through the 30 kilometre point in 37 minutes 16.269, she's 16 seconds ahead of Vittoria Bussy at that point, who rode 37 minutes 32.6. Her average speed to that point was 47.94 kilometres an hour. So Loudon must be feeling a little bit confident now inside this ride. What will Dan Bigham be showing her down on the track? Dan is inside. He's allowed to be just inside the Côte d'Azur. You can see him there, kneeling down, giving little bits of instruction. What sort of things will he be telling her? Because I'm intrigued. We always see the coach of the team pursuit on the inside of the track, walking the line, showing little things on the board. What do they tell you? What's important? And actually, how much can you hear? Because you've got these aero helmets on.
So normally when we do the team pursuit, our coach always shows the lap time with the tablet and also shouts it into the track. Because in the team pursuit, if you have your head down, you have nearly no idea, no chance to see what's on this tablet. So you need to listen, and that's sometimes quite difficult if you have a lot of spectators and with all this noise and the aero helmet. And it depends a little bit on the rider. In the individual pursuit, some guys prefer to have the time shouted, and other have like it if the coach steps up to you or walks backwards if you're in front or behind. And I think what I've heard now, he is shouting her the lap time, and this is the most important thing in the hour record, in my opinion.
That just gives her that confidence, the feeling that everything is on track. There's no panic at all. She's riding 18.5 second splits, which is very, very consistent when you look. 18.490, 18.5. Very consistent riding here by Joss Loudon as she dials in on this record. She's just gone through the 40-minute mark, so she's got 20 minutes of riding to go. Let's hear now from Molly Renfer from Le Col, who have invested in Joss Loudon to try and break this record.
All right, we're back down by the track now, this time with Molly from Le Col. Hi, Molly. Thanks for joining us here. So tell us, what is Joss wearing on her world record attempt here today?
So Joss is wearing it's a Le Col collaboration with McLaren. It's a skin suit, our Project Aero collection, which we launched earlier this year.
And the Col's purpose is pretty clear when we're watching Joss, that you're here to provide the kit that helps riders go faster and farther on every single ride. And what's been the Col's involvement in Joss's hour record attempt up to this stage?
So when Joss unofficially broke the record earlier this year, she wasn't on the athlete biological passport. That costs about £7,000, £8,000 to get on. So we funded her for that. And then when she decided to go for the attempt at a later date this year, we decided to back it through getting a live stream, just supporting her in every way that we could, and just promoting her. She's a great athlete. It's been really fun working with her, working with the team to help support her.
And it's amazing to have the live stream for a women's attempt. There's only been 6 attempts for the women compared to 23 for the men since 2014. And so the Col is really bringing attention to women's cycling via the hour. And the ultimate goal is what for the Col?
I think just to inspire women's cycling. We've always promoted women's cycling. We sponsor the Drops Le Col team, just trying to inspire the younger athletes. And I know Joss herself, that's her aim in this. So it's, just getting more women out there.
All right. Thank you so much, Molly. Thank you.
Molly Renfer from Le Col, who have really invested in trying to put everything possible into this hour record attempt. She's coming up now to the 35-kilometre point very, very soon. From this point onwards, at what point does Dan Bigham say to Joss, now you go, and we don't ride to schedule? Or does she ride to schedule for the entire hour? Is there a point in the last 5 minutes or something, Mauro, where they just say, now you see how far you can go?
I think she will feel it in the last 5 or 10 minutes when it's the good moment to try to accelerate. For sure you cannot go too early because otherwise you slow down again. But the goal is definitely for her to empty her tank as much as possible. And I think what I heard from her and from Dan, it's not just beating the record. She wants to go as fast or as far as possible.
When you look at the line that she's riding as we come up to the 35-kilometre point, and we are 3/4 of the way through this record, you've ridden so many laps of this track. How is her line on the track now? Because when you look at the loss of distance, I mean, 1 centimetre above the black line costs 12 metres over an hour. How is she doing?
Yeah, she does not bad. I think when I watched her the first few laps, she looks still quite the same. Also her position on the bike, so she has a few little turns. But it's definitely normal if you ride for 45 minutes on this track. But it looks really good.
She looks good so far. We've just gone through the 35-kilometre point. Vittoria Bussi's time through 35 kilometres was 43:46.7. Joss Loudon has just gone through in 43:25.786. So she is still well ahead of this hour record by 21 seconds at this particular point. The next important critical point will be that 40 kilometres. But so far, she's looking good. She said before the record started she didn't want an awful lot of noise in this track. So as you'll notice, there's no music. There are no fans apart from friends and family and us sitting here watching this attempt. But now everyone is starting to get behind her, aren't they? Because they sense there's a bit of history to be made here.
Yeah, she said she wants to have it quiet, but I'm sure in the last few minutes she will be happy to hear some voices of her family and friends. So let's see how she makes it.
This is the UCI hour record time by Tissot. 192 laps is the target for Joss Loudon to break this world hour record. She decided to start this project when her partner Dan Bigham, who is an aero engineer, was chatting with John Archibald about the possibility of Archibald going for the world hour record and trying to break various different records, which of course they have helped riders like Ashton Lambie to do over various different distances. They then started to talk about the possibility of Joss going for this hour record, and over time she bought into the idea. It's incredible that she has only ever ridden one track event, which was the National Championships on the track. She doesn't ride on the track normally, but she is a powerful rider with really low what we call CDA, which makes her incredibly aerodynamic on this track, and she can push a lot of power. She was a reserve for the Olympic Games. She went to Tokyo. She supported Lizzie Deignan and Anna Shackley in those preparations. She rode the World Championships last week. She rode the time trial. She rode the team time trial mixed relay, and she rode the road worlds as well. So she's done incredibly well to recover from that and get out here on the track and go for this hour record. Maura, you rode the worlds last week. How amazing is it that Joss has been able to ride 3 events of the World Championships, recover, come to Grenchen and get herself mentally focused to go for this hour record?
Yeah, it's something completely different, but I've also done it in the past, and it works. And I think it's also a good preparation to do some racing on the road, because you cannot just train on the track all the time. But you can see also how she rides her bike here, that she definitely put a lot of effort into this hour record. She trained a lot in this position on the track, and this is really the key thing, because you need to hold this position for 1 hour, and this is super difficult. So from my experience, it's nearly impossible. I could never do it. So yeah.
She's doing incredibly well so far. Well, she's got 2 proud parents who are in the crowd, the small crowd here in this Grenchen Velodrome. So let's turn our attention then and just hear from Dom and Christine Loudon, parents of Joss, as she enters the final phase.
All right, we're back down by the track, this time with Christine and Dom, Joss's parents. So Joss is sending it big time out there. She's about 25 seconds ahead at this stage in the race. So Victoria Bussi's record is clearly within reach. But how much impact on her mental game has all this media attention created for Joss? She's usually pretty low-key, but now with all the hype, how's she been managing that?
She's been pretty low-key. She tries to keep it under control. I think she's done it really well. There's been a lot of attention on her, and I think she's managed it really well. She's trying to sort of focus away from it a little bit and kind of go under it a little bit as best she can. But she's done really well now.
And what was her general vibe this morning? Then, as the hours ticked by and we got closer and closer to the start time, how was she? How was her vibe from the morning all the way until the start?
Well, we got here at midday and she was pretty chilled and very pleased to see us, which is really nice. And I think she's quite relaxed and she was looking forward in a sort of a way.
Dom, earlier you had said that you've actually never seen her so relaxed before taking a race start, which surprised you actually.
Yeah, normally she's quite tense. She kind of switches off a little bit. She's really quite tense. Here this afternoon, she was really quite relaxed, chatting about other things. I think the thing is that she's done all the preparation work, so all she can do now is just get out there and execute, but she is.
And she is. So, but also, Dom, you're part of the reason why she's actually here today. She transitioned from running to cycling about 5 years ago. Clearly, she's been cycling before that, but now her pro career is really taken off, and she's been serious about the sport for 5 years. But 5 years ago, would you have imagined that your daughter would be chasing a world record?
Not at all. It was quite a surprise. The first time she really started pushing it hard on a bike was on a club cycling holiday to Mallorca. And then she suddenly started flying up the climbs. And then she entered a couple of little tiny road races, which she won very easily. And I thought that was kind of almost going to be it. And from then on, it's just taken off completely taken off.
And here she is. She's on track. I'll let you guys go because we're less than 10 minutes away from the end. Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you, Dom. Bye-bye.
10 minutes of riding to go for Joss Loudon. 40.5 kilometres covered. She went through the 40-kilometre point in 49 minutes 35.495. The record of Vittoria Bussi was 50 minutes 00.9. The average speed at that point was 47.99 kilometres an hour. Then Bussi started to accelerate as she fought back over the last few kilometres of racing. So Joss Loudon's average speed is 48.396 kilometres an hour to this point. It is pretty incredible how she is riding this situation right now. If you go back in history and you look back, there was an hour record attempt in women's cycling in July 1893, which was 26 kilometres. The first woman to ever wear the rainbow jersey rode 41.347 kilometres, Elsie Jacobs, in 1958. So this really is a record that Joss Loudon is trying to put right up there in the history books and completely change the shape of this record, which is what she is doing right now. The current record is 48.007 kilometres. And is she going to beat it? She is starting to pick up the tempo a little bit. She's at 18.5 second laps. Dan Bigham is trying to encourage her a little bit more to see whether she can break this record with a much bigger distance, but the gap will start to close because we know that Bussi started to accelerate in the final phase. She's 26 seconds ahead. We'll get a good indication at 45 kilometres as to whether this record is going to be beaten or whether it's not. Mauro, when you've looked at her now, how she's starting to look as we approach the last few minutes of this ride?
Yeah, for one moment I was thinking she starts to get quite tired, and her lap time came up quite a bit to about 18.6. But now she starts to look better again. Her shoulders are rolling a bit from left to right, but it's absolutely normal after 52 minutes. But otherwise, I think she's on a very good way.
So you're starting to see the shoulders moving a little bit, because before that, they haven't really moved, have they? She's been absolutely solid on the bike.
Yeah, her position is amazing. She looked like nothing was moving in the first 30 or 40 minutes. And now you really see that she's suffering also with this big gear to keep it turning around. But she still looks really good, and I think it will, only if she crashes or she has a cramp or something like this, she will not break the record. Otherwise, it looks really good.
Just to update, the hour record has gone through various phases. There was a time when all equipment, all innovation was allowed. Then the rules were changed, and that meant that innovation wasn't allowed to the level it had been before. We saw extreme positions. We saw the Superman or Superwoman position. We saw the Graham Brie position as well. But if we go back in the record books and we look at all the way through the hour record for women, the biggest distance ever ridden by a woman in history, no matter what the position was on the record was Jenny Longo Ciprelli with 48.159. So if Joss Loudon beats the record and goes further than 48.159, even with any innovations or the different bikes or different positions, she would be the woman who has ridden the furthest distance ever, bar any rule changes. That would be incredible.
That is definitely really impressive, because if you saw in the past which kind of bikes and positions were allowed, this was much faster. And now, even if she is sticking to the rules and she is beating this record, that's very impressive.
She's now 27 seconds ahead of the record. She's done 55 minutes. She's into the last 5 minutes of this ride. We are going to count through to that 45-kilometre point. Vittoria Bussi rode through there in 56 minutes 15.0. Their next lap will tell us how is Joss Loudon doing against that record at 45 kilometres, and then she has just over 3 kilometres to break this world hour record. Loudon comes round to hit the 45-kilometre point, which she does in 55:47.009. That is very impressive. She's nearly half a minute faster than Vittoria Bussi at the 45-kilometre point. Mauro, she really is now starting to try and up the tempo. You can see that by the way she's moving around the track a little.
You can see now she's giving everything she has left in the tank, and it looks good. But yeah, now she just needs to stay on the bike and bring it to the line.
With a 64.15 gear on, how easy is it to up the tempo, to pick up the revs?
When you choose such a big gear, it's really hard to increase the pace and accelerate. But the good thing with the big gear is that your heart rate is a little bit lower and you can control it a bit better. And I think when you look at her, she looks like she's increasing slightly. Yeah.
She is starting to increase the pressure. You can see the shoulders going. She's moving around a little bit. 57 minutes goes past. She's at 46 kilometres. Just remember then that the all-important lap count is 192 laps. She needs to do 8 metres on from that 192 laps, and then this world hour record will be on Joss Loudon. 28 seconds now ahead of the record as she comes up now to the 46.5 kilometre point. The average speed 48.403 kilometres an hour. It is a painful moment in this record, but in a few seconds time she will have only 2 minutes left of effort in this hour record to set the standard for all other women in the world to try and beat. Joss Loudon, who comes from Lewes down in the south of England, a 33-year-old rider, a runner turned cyclist who has escalated from a rider who's riding small local events to going as a reserve to the Olympic Games, to riding for Great Britain in the World Championships. She says at this point in the event she expected to be in a bit of a meditative state. She would just calm down, relax into the record. She has 4 laps now to beat the world hour record mark of Vittoria Bussi. So 1,000 metres and 8 metres on top of it to break the record. Mauro, how's she looking now?
She will definitely make it, and you see now her lap time is coming down again, so to 18.5. So she leaves now everything on the track and tries to increase this record as much as possible.
58 minutes, 52.388. Joss Loudon has 2 laps now to break the world hour record. The mark of Vittoria Bussi of Italy, 48.007 kilometers in 1 lap's time. Joss Loudon will break the world hour record for women. She goes down the back straight now. This has been a relentless pressure for 1 hour. She's at 59 minutes and a half. Joss Loudon comes up to the line and breaks the world hour record in 8 meters once she gets past the line. Now she's going to kick it on all the way down the back straight. 192 laps have been completed. She's going to go 250 meters. She's got 1 lap of effort to go now. Joss Loudon of this hour record attempt is going the fastest and the further that any woman has gone in history. Joss Loudon comes up now to complete the hour. The distance is going to be around 48.4. We'll get clarification, but the new hour record holder is Joss Loudon of Great Britain. We're going to wait for clarification from the commissaires, but that was an incredible effort. The record is 48.406 kilometers. The new world record holder for women is Joss Loudon of Great Britain here in Grenchen. Mauro, summarise that now. What an effort by Joss Loudon.
It is an amazing effort and history that has been made today, and I assume she will feel really good to get finally out of this position and stretching the back and the arms a little bit. And yeah, 400 meters more, it's quite a lot. It's impressive.
Nearly 2 laps of the track further than Vittoria Bussi, who interestingly Joss was alongside in a race, and Vittoria said to her, you can't do it the way you're doing it because you can't race. You need to concentrate on the hour record. Joss Loudon has proven otherwise. She has ridden every single event that is possible. She rode the World Championships a few days ago, but the new world hour record is 48.406 kilometers. In training, she did ride a world record of 48.160, but Joss Loudon, all the preparation, all the effort, she has done it. She has broken the hour record, and what an incredible performance that was. It was so consistent. It was such a special moment when she crossed the line and still had plenty of distance. You can see the amount of salt on her. You can see the effort that she's put in. Now she just needs to recover, and then we will hear from the new UCI World Hour Record holder after that momentous effort. They're just going to give her a bit of moment. She looks good. She looks very, very good. She looks like she is totally with it after that record. She's not in absolute exhaustion, Mauro.
A key thing of that was definitely that she paced it quite well. You see, she didn't start too fast, and in the end she could hold a steady pace to the finish. And this is a key point on having an easy ride, or as easy as possible. It's definitely super hard, but if you go in too fast, you have to suffer much, much more.
A very impressive performance by Joss Loudon. As her dad said earlier, she was so relaxed. Dan Bigham congratulates her. The idea of an hour record that just came to fruition, she rode it perfectly. She rode every single lap consistently. And as she said before, will I be the best rider in the world? The answer is she is the best rider in the world. She is the record holder. Let's hear from her now.
Warm. Yeah, no, good, of course. Yeah, relieved, but also I think I was a bit dramatic. It was really, really worrying, and nerves were absolutely to the extreme. A lot of self-doubt, and actually, yeah, it wasn't that bad.
And was that self-doubt throughout the day? Was it just on the track itself this afternoon? When did that self-doubt come creeping in?
I think probably like about sort of when I came back from altitude at the beginning of September, just thinking, oh my gosh, actually, you start to question the preparation for it, like start to question why I put it off the back of World Championships with 3 races. I mean, a lot of people were like, that's not good preparation for an hour. And I mean, they weren't wrong, it wasn't. But the point was, it was enough to do what I needed to do and what I wanted to do. So I'm pleased with how it went, and I'm pleased that I sort of pushed through with what my plan was.
Well, an amazing plan, and you did it. Oh my gosh, we were speaking with your dad earlier, and he was saying that he seemed very calm and collected, and that's quite the opposite answer that you're giving us in real time right now. So you definitely had your game face on, and you were focused. And when during the race did you know that, wow, I've got this?
See, it's so easy to say it in hindsight, but I think, like, I mean, you start, like, I can't say you start. I started, and I knew that records split, 0.7s, I can ride that comfortably, in theory. So I just kind of had to trust that, and I knew that if I sort of sat below that, then I would be okay. And yeah, there was a point where Dan was like, come on, yeah, push on, you can put this on the shelf. And I was like, okay, do I go for that? Do I really try and push it, or do I kind of play it a little bit safe? And I think I went somewhere in the middle. And yeah, in terms of sort of game face, I think there's been highs and lows. Yeah, like I definitely, I can be quite calm, different days, different feelings. But on the whole, I mean, I've had a really good team supporting me into this. I mean, with Dan and my parents and my coach Sean and Lacal, and I mean, my friends. So yeah, I've had good preparation for it. So.
Well, you did amazing. You are now the world record holder, Joss. Amazing. Congratulations. We'll catch up with you a little bit later. Thank you, Joss.
Joss Loudon breaks the world hour record here in Grenchen with a distance of 48.406 kilometres. As is traditional then, there will be a presentation for Joss, and then we'll give her time to recover. We will catch up with her again before the end. Her mum congratulates her after that momentous effort. We heard an interview from Joss before or during the initial stages of this record, and she said, you always compare yourself to the best in the world. And you think, is that going to be me? No, that's not what this is really about. But now Joss Loudon is the best rider in the world at an hour. Do you think that's going to sink in, Mauro, at some point to her, that she is now the #1 rider over the hour record distance?
It is amazing what she achieved today, and I think she needs maybe a few hours or a night or two to sink that in and realize what she actually achieved today. And I hope that this ride from her today did motivate other women to try and go for a record. And yeah.
When you look at, we've been lucky enough, we had a schedule shared with us, and her schedule was going to be 48.5 kilometres. She rode 48.406. It might be changed a little bit by the last little bits of calculation, but how, you as an athlete watching another athlete, how tough is it to ride a target 48.5 kilometres for 1 hour and just ride so consistently all the way through? What degree of training and effort does that take?
A really big factor of it is the head, and it's just mentally super hard to stick to a plan that is, it's not just a plan, it's like the maximum that you can achieve. Basically, maybe on a super good day with a little bit better condition, she could have reached a few meters more. But just riding this pace till the end is really impressive.
The record has been changed very slightly, but not majorly, to 48.405. 48.405. is the adjusted record. So as she crossed the line, then the commissaires and the Tissot timing, they go and they just check everything, and that is the distance that will be put in the record books, 48.405. So it is a beating of nearly 400 meters on the track. And let's look, this track is, Mauro, 250 meters. It's a huge distance.
It's a lot, yeah. But of course, it's over 1 hour. But you need to make it. It's one lap can be quite long after such a ride. So it's impressive.
We're waiting then for the presentation to take place. There is always a presentation to our record holders. You'll see there on the left the camera with her. There's been a documentary team following her over this hour record, and they are going to release that documentary, give you all the background, all the insight, everything that happened. And I think that's going to be really intriguing for a number of reasons. One, that she's not been a world-class name. She's known on the world circuit, but she's not one of the stars of the world circuit. She is now, but also about the approach that she's taken, how much has gone into this record, because it has been a real family effort. And there's her mum, dad is here, but it's also from Dan's point of view. They've been literally going out to outdoor velodromes, testing a skin suit, seeing if that was faster, testing the aero socks, seeing if they're quicker on her or not. But of course, also, you've got then the support of her sponsors, who then helped to really make this happen. And she's been able to go into the wind tunnel and then test even better. So it's really progressed, this record. We're just going to have the presentation now. And the distance will be shown here on the card. Hopefully they will turn it around and we'll see it on camera and present her the card.
Awards ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for the award ceremony of the UCI Hour Record timed by Tissot.
There is the official record, 48.405 kilometers for Jos Loudon, the UCI Hour Record timed by Tissot, taking place today here in Grenchen in the Tissot Velodrome. There she is, going to cover her face up if she puts it there. Well, in COVID times, you're not allowed too many spectators in this velodrome, but Jos wanted it to be a small, low-key event here in the velodrome. If we contrast it with the likes of Rowan Dennis, when he did the record, it was full in here. Jens Vogt, it was full. It was an incredible atmosphere. But Jos has done it in her own way. She's presented with the special Tissot watch for breaking the world hour records. And she's also presented with the bell here at the Tissot Velodrome, because any rider who breaks the world hour record holder here, world hour record here, is given one of the Tissot Velodrome bells, which will be an important little thing to keep at home after this. So the hour record bell here in Grenchen, a very special presentation for her. She'll remember that bell for a long time, won't she? Because hearing that bell must be absolutely incredible. The flowers presented by Molly Renfer from Le Col. That bell must have been a welcome relief.
Yeah, it will be. And they need to organize a new bell for the next week for the European Championship here.
European Championships coming up here on the track. Thank you to all of you for joining us. I think we're going to get the opportunity to hear from Jos one more time before we finish our broadcast. But history has been made. The record stood at 48.007. It's now been broken, 48.405. In history, Jos Loudon has ridden further than any woman has done in 1 hour. Let's hear
All
from her
right,
again.
Joss, congratulations again and again and again. So just to backtrack, we've talked about it during the commentary earlier while you were riding, but there's only been 6 women's attempts since 2014 compared to 23 men's attempts. You're truly an inspiration for women in sport, women in cycling. Where would you like to see women in cycling evolve? Because you're definitely, you're breaking the way here for all the young women, all the young riders. What's your goal for having taken this on publicly like this?
I think just to demonstrate that the women's side of the sport is the same as the men's. If we're up there, we're competing at the same level and doing the same sort of things and putting on the same sort of entertaining races. And I'm just doing something like this, trying to close that gap to the number of men that are trying the men's world record. Yeah, it's just sort of doing anything to close that gap.
And how did the kit hold up today in regards to the Lecole McLaren skin suit that you've been wearing? We've been all admiring it.
I really like it. And, I don't even feel like I'm desperate to take it off. I'm very comfortable. Yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, very comfortable.
And is there anything in today's challenge that you would have done differently or the lead up? You mentioned earlier that there were doubts creeping in prior, but if you could, after just a few minutes of reflection, would you do something differently?
Go faster, ride harder. It was conservative. I played it safe. I definitely played it safe. I was sort of in control of the whole time. I mean, the last few minutes were uncomfortable, but it was, I would say it was definitely a controlled effort. And maybe I'd look back and go, I should have tried harder. But I think given the preparation, the run into it, the World Championships, the fact I've got the Women's Tour next week, I rode it in the way that I wanted to ride it. And so I can't be unhappy with how it went, really.
Well, so I get an inkling that you might want to take it on again and go for the hour at altitude?
If I got a free trip to Mexico or something, I'd probably go for it because that would be good fun. But otherwise, I'll probably leave it there for now.
Oh, come on. We'll get you there. We'll get you there. So how are you going to celebrate now? It's all behind you, all the lead up and everything now. You can, you do have the race Women's Tour next week. But now you can celebrate this. How are you going to celebrate?
I'm going to support Dan doing his British attempt tomorrow. So we're going to be back in the Velodrome, and then after that, we'll celebrate. It's both of our birthdays actually at the weekend, so we'll have a bit of a joint, hopefully a joint celebration, birthday, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Joss, and congratulations once again, world record holder.
Thank you.
Good job.
Joss Loudon is the new UCI hour record holder, timed by Tissot. The distance 48.405 kilometres. She's broken that record by almost 400 metres. It's a massive breaking of that record. And she said, I rode conservatively. I knew what I could do. It's been a family effort. Dom and Christine and Dan, her partner, it really has been a very special day, and she was relaxed beforehand, and she's recovered so quickly and so relaxed already after the breaking of this hour record, less than 20 minutes ago. She is not exhausted. She has put the gap between her and the previous record massively. She set some standards. She is the rider in women's history who has gone the furthest ever in an hour. She's the first woman to ride over 30 miles an hour for an hour on the track, and 48.405 equates to 30.01 miles per hour. It is a very impressive afternoon. Mara, when you look at her, are you amazed that she's recovered so quick and she's so calm?
She doesn't look like she just did an hour record attempt. It's really impressive. I'm quite surprised how she looks, and she's already quite recovered. So it means that she didn't went all out, or she just tried to not risk anything in the first half, because we know it's crucial to stay on the plan in the first half. And she did it quite well and could accelerate in the end. So for now she has the record, and if somebody is going to beat it, I think she will try again.
I wouldn't be surprised if Joss Loudon has another go at this and see just how far she can go. bearing in mind that she broke the record comfortably. She broke it within her own ability. She doesn't look like she's pushed it to the absolute limit. She looks like she could go even further. So it's going to be interesting to see where this record evolves to, and she wants to inspire more women to have a go. We're here in the Grenchen Velodrome, the Tissot Grenchen Velodrome. It has witnessed an incredible performance by a British rider, Joss Loudon. She came to the track on the back of the World Championships. She said she wanted to inspire more women to go for the world hour record. She has comfortably beaten it by 48.405 kilometres as a mark. She's the first woman in history to go over 30 miles per hour. From Mauro Schmidt and me, Anthony McCrossan, thanks for joining us. Bye for now.